Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for Z Nation. And what this video is going to be doing is giving my thoughts on Corporate Retreat, which was the 11th episode of Z Nation's second season. Overall, I thought it was pretty interesting. I really liked the character dynamics that they had with the guest characters, with the main group members, the mystery. I felt this was really, really good. It was a lot better than the mystery surrounding Roswell, so this mystery actually was pretty exciting along the way. So I'm going to give my thoughts on it and let you guys know what happened. If you are not caught up with Z Nation and you do not want to be spoiled, then don't watch the video because otherwise you will be spoiled. Okay, so what ends up happening in this episode is the group starts out by fighting zombies in the woods. They're not too far away from where they were in the last episode. And of course, there's I think there's a lot of nuclear fallout in the area. It's very dusty, very cloudy, so they can't really see too much in what's ahead of them. And they come across this building hoping to get shelter from the many zombies that are surrounding them. And it's a hotel, and it's locked, and they're trying to get inside, and it's discovered that there's actually a group inside that's been living there since the start of the apocalypse, and they're debating whether to let Warren's group in, but one of the members named Iggy decides to let them in. He's not going to let them out there to potentially die. So he lets them in, even though the rest of the group was basically unsure about whether they wanted to. And we're introduced to a man named Gideon, who is played by Anthony Michael Hall, where if you're familiar with movies like The Breakfast Club, Weird Science, he's played in those movies. Very good actor. I do appreciate the work that he's done. And it was nice to see him in this episode. And he plays Gideon Gold or something like that, but his first name is Gideon. He's a doctor, and he's a conflict resolution expert. It's what he practices in. And this group, and there were probably about maybe 10 to 15 people that lived in this hotel now. They've been surviving there since the start, and they were all sent there on a corporate retreat to basically hear a lecture about conflict resolution in the workplace when the zombie apocalypse started. So what ends up happening is the group has basically established themselves there for the past 4 years, and they use a talking, well, it's a stick. They call it the talking stick. It's this big stick. It's like a walking stick that's like really, really big, that they use, and whoever has a hold of that has the power to talk. It's really reminiscent of Lord of the Flies, where they used the conch shell to signify, the person that should be speaking. So it was pretty interesting to see this. And Gideon allows them to stay while the zombies are getting out of the way. And he actually gives an analysis of everybody in the group, because he's known for that. He can really, describe people, if you will. And it was very interesting. He got that pretty spot on. Of course, that's a little bit of good writing, but nonetheless, it was actually interesting to see him delve into the minds of the character a little bit. Seeing Warren as the leader, you see Vasquez as the enforcer, Addie's the strong support, especially for Warren. You see Doc, who still keeps a sense of humor. And then, when he describes 10,000 in Murphy, it was actually pretty interesting because he described 10,000 as a good-hearted, young man, but, there was some anger within him, which was, leveled towards Murphy. And 10,000 literally said, yeah, one of these days when it's Murphy's time, I will kill him. But, for now, we need to get our mission done. And then with Murphy, he noticed that Murphy does a lot of things for the people in the group, but that nobody really appreciates that. And it, if you look at it in a certain way, it does kind of make sense. Murphy really helping the group members out, but a lot of the time, you have some of them really dismissing him or, ordering him around, which again, that's a little bit of a mix of opinion. Murphy kind of brings some of that on himself, we must admit. But it was really nice to see him delve into that. And what we see is that, they basically have a way of doing things. Everybody has a say. They all vote together. They use the stick to basically communicate and talk to each other. They're limited in the amount of food that they eat, about 1,000 calories a day. So it's a little bit of a struggle. And we see that various different individuals in this hotel really aren't necessarily comfortable with everything that goes on, and they also kind of don't want to be there. Some of them, you see people, particularly this one woman named Dana, who in a sense is almost like Gideon's second in command. Somebody that he really relies on, but Dana doesn't really want to be there. She has been there only because it seems like when they banish people, which they have banished people before, those people would show up as zombies. So she really doesn't think that there's much else out there, so she stayed. But, really she wants to leave. And that's been something that many of them have wanted. You also see some of the individuals really struggling with the positions that they have. Some of them actually really jealous of Dana, being so close to Gideon, which part of that might be because rumors has it that the two of them may have had relations with each other. I heard a little conversation about that. So, you also see people who are really insecure and really wonder, who matters more and who's in control. And a lot of that, really falls on Gideon, because Gideon really is the leader, if you will, of the group. So, everything seems to be, going okay, when all of a sudden a gunshot rings out and everybody's like, what the heck? What's going on here? And the group ends up going into this room and they find that Murphy has been shot along with another one of the people from Gideon's group. I believe his name was Greg. And everybody's like, well, whoa, what's somebody shooting Murphy for? This is a little crazy. And so they're treating Murphy and the wounded man, who I think may have died, or if he didn't necessarily die, I would say clinically he may have been dead, but I'll explain that a little bit later. So, people are really wondering, well, who shot Murphy and who, why? Why would they do this? And, what they end up discovering actually is whoever shot Murphy, because of the fact that the bullet passed through Murphy and first and got his blood on it and then hit Greg in the heart, Greg actually didn't die, necessarily speaking. He basically was either kind of alive or the blood was preventing him from turning into a zombie. So I think it was a little bit of both here, because as far as I know, the bullet hit Greg in the heart. And Doc ends up thinking, well, maybe we can figure this out because, Murphy's blood has been known to bring people back, hence Cassandra. So Doc starts to treat the guy, by giving him Murphy's blood. First in a rag, and then he takes Murphy's thumb and puts it in the guy's mouth. So the guy's like, sucking on Murphy's thumb, if you will, to bring him back to see if maybe he can answer the mystery. And while that's going on, Murphy is actually knocked out. He's been knocked unconscious, and Murphy's having all of these dreams about zombies, being around them. He remembers the moment when several of them went off the cliff in the last episode at the Grand Canyon. And, we see his struggle really, coming to the forefront with, deciding whether to save zombies or whether to let the group kill them. It's that conflict within him. Is he going to choose to support Warren's group in the end, or is he going to choose to support the zombies? You see that conflict going on with him in these dreams. And of course, while he's dreaming, he's bringing the zombies to the hotel, because telepathically he's bringing zombies there. So the zombies are starting to get in the area and are starting to kill a couple of the people that are there. And what the group ends up doing when they discover, some evidence, they're trying to figure out, who did this. And Vasquez, being, a former DEA agent, his cop instinct kicks in, and he starts to do some investigating, and he finds out that somebody has been hoarding some food, which, is important to the group because they ration their food so that each person got 1,000 calories a day. It's less than what you should be eating, but it's enough to keep you going. And somebody stealing food is obviously a very, very terrible thing. And they start to analyze the options, and Gideon and Iggy are the only two people that the group says has access to the food. It turns out that Iggy had previously stolen food before. And it also turns out Iggy is another one of those people who really wishes that he could leave. He doesn't want to be a part of the group anymore. And what ends up happening is the group decides to banish him. They accuse him as being the one to shoot Murphy and shoot the other guy. And, they accuse him of being the one to do it so that he could take the food and leave. Iggy claims that he's innocent, but nobody really listens. They banish him, which basically means they open the doors, throw him out, and, whatever the zombies do to him is, well, that's on him. So Iggy is banished, thrown out. They think that they have solved the mystery, but then it turns out that maybe they haven't. One of Gideon's men, named Washington, he ends up getting stabbed. They find him stabbed and killed, which makes people wonder, well, did we really get the right guy, or why would this happen? So, we see the mystery starts to continue, but at the same time, we have zombies, coming into the area and are basically tearing the place down, and they kill a couple of the people, from Gideon's group. Well, while this is going on, the rest of the group is fighting back, and Dana and Addie, stick together and really, end up hiding in a closet together in order to, protect themselves from the zombies. Addie and Dana actually have a little bit of a romantic connection in this episode. That's really what it seemed to me was going on, because earlier in the episode, they had gone up to the roof so Addie could look at the satellites, and they find out that there's nothing they can do with it. But, Dana expresses to Addie her fears of, staying here and wondering what's going to happen, always living in fear. And she expresses the same concerns inside of the closet that they're hiding in. And, Addie seems to mutually feel the same way. So, you really have to wonder, what kind of a connection may have been made there, and what that might mean for them in the future. But Dana asks Addie if she can come along with her on the group's, journey to California, because she doesn't want to stay there anymore. And Addie doesn't really know what to think about it at this point, but Dana really wants to go. And, they end up getting saved by Vasquez and Warren, and the group ends up having to hide inside of a smaller room because the zombies basically break through. Well, at this point, the wounded man, Greg, he's gotten enough blood within him that he comes back. He really turns the same shade approximately as Murphy is, and the group, is wondering, can he really solve the mystery? Greg can't talk, and of course he really does look like a zombie for all intents and purposes, but he doesn't attack anybody. And Doc asks Greg, who shot you? And Greg ends up pointing to this one guy, I believe his name was Travis. And, basically was like, him. And Travis pulls out guns and reveals, yeah, he was the one that did it. And it turns out that him and Dana were actually in together on this plot to take the food and leave, because they really want to leave. They don't want to be a part of this group anymore. They don't like being in the hotel. They don't like Gideon's, structure and control. And they want to leave. And Gideon says, sure, yeah, go ahead, leave. I don't want you here. And what ends up happening is Dana expresses that, she actually didn't kill anybody. She wanted to leave. She was desperate to leave in order, steal food in order to leave, but she didn't want to, kill anyone in the process. So it would seem that Travis was the one that kind of took the initiative to kill people, and then, leave in the end with Dana, because Dana wanted to leave, and she expresses all that to Gideon right before everything happens. But just before they can leave, zombie Gary ends up grabbing Doc's gun and shoots Travis. And Travis ends up shooting, zombie Greg and kills him. Travis dies of his gunshot wound, comes back as a zombie, and then Addie saves Dana from getting bitten. So the mystery's pretty much been solved at this point, and you're wondering, well, what's going to happen? Well, somebody starts to knock on the door, and everybody's like, well, who is that? It actually sounded like somebody, knocking, not just zombies hitting the wall. And they open the door, and it turns out Iggy survived. How about that, folks? Iggy survived being banished. He had a hammer in his hand. He must have, really fought those zombies because he's alive. He's not bitten. He's covered in blood, of course. And he comes in, and Gideon, is like, wow, Iggy, I can't believe you're alive. He's like, uh-oh. And, he says, I was wrong. The system was wrong, and I understand you're going to be angry, and, I apologize for what's happened. You have every right to be angry. And Iggy basically says, to heck with your system, to heck with you, grabs that talking stick and beats Gideon to death with it, pretty much. So that really does signify the end of the rule of, Gideon's corporate retreat that they had there. Basically the hotel's been destroyed. The system clearly doesn't work anymore. If people don't want to be there and people don't want to be a part of it, it's really not going to work. So Murphy ends up waking up and gets everybody, to safety, gets the zombies away. He uses his telepathic messages to get rid of the zombies, so the zombies leave and everybody else is safe. So the group ends up, getting ready to leave. Murphy's healed up enough, and they have supplies. And Dana and Addie say goodbye to each other. Dana did want to come along, but Addie said no, that, that they didn't want to bring her along in the mission. Whether that was because of potentially Addie being worried about being distracted with love. I think that a lot of the reason why Addie has been able to become this strong, independent character is really by cutting those ties of being in love. And it's really made her strong. So I don't know if that was part of the reason, or whether the group really didn't trust Dana enough to bring her along because of, the little bit of deceitfulness that she did use in the episode, or whether it's just for concern for her. She's really been trapped in that hotel for a while, and you need the toughest of the toughest to go on this mission and fight against zombies. And I think that really, Dana's not really tough enough to fight off zombies and hold her own at this point, I don't think. And the group really does not have time to train her. So it might have been a combination of all of those factors. But, Dana doesn't really get, punished or shunned for what she did, because I think a lot of people can really understand that position, being in a place that you really don't want to be and trying to do things to leave, but other people do things that you didn't plan. That does happen. So Dana gets, let off with nothing, nothing bad happens to her. And the two of them, really hope to, see each other again in the future, and they smile. No kissing or any other kind of thing happened, but, hey, it was nice to see Addie actually forming some kind of a connection with somebody. And, I'll be interested to see if maybe they do run into each other in the near future. I think that would be really nice, to see some of these characters from the past reappearing. We've seen that with Serena, we've seen that with Skeezy and Sketchy. And my hope is that eventually maybe we might run into Brittany the Sniper for 10,000. And maybe Dana might come back at some point. She might be more, in training. Maybe she will be able to hold her own and convince the group that she's worthy of going on the mission. And maybe she may be added to the cast later, but maybe we might never see her again. But it was at least nice to see that connection that Addie made, and it'll be interesting to see if maybe that will pop up again. But I thought it was a great episode. I thought it really did a good job of providing the right kind of mystery that you need, and I liked it. So let me know what you guys think. Did you guys like the episode? Do you think there could have been something different about it? Let me know. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. If you have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, don't be afraid to suggest them. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much for watching.